Hi everybody, welcome back. It's good to be with you again. Today I'm just going to carry on with the book of Noah. Sorry if you can hear all that noise out the back. It's really windy over here at the moment. It's quite loud. I don't know if you can hear it on there or not. So I'll just carry on from where I left off the other day anyway. I did actually do this yesterday, this video, but I said at the beginning of the video I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to pick points as per the tabs at the top of my page. And I ended up reading everything. I didn't get very far, so today I'm going to have another attempt at just reading bits and bobs rather than just reading the whole thing, 'cause if I do read the whole book it could take me 10 more videos and I could probably get a third strike and lose my channel, so I'll just do bits and bobs. So it was already specified how Noah divided the universal earth to his children, how Ham, abounding in all vices and detestable causes, notwithstanding, was not deprived of his portion, but had his right of inheritance justly allotted to him, which was the third part of the world, particularly Africa, to the heifer part of Egypt, for which countries he was commanded his father to depart with his wife Nagla and his 35 rulers, which is as much to say as the chiefs of families of his blood and house. Presently established himself as king and Saturn of Egypt. So he was the first king of Egypt, where he erected and built a city called Miniand. Among them also he himself was called Pan and Silvanus, which people likewise say engendered and issued of that family, to honour and worship him the more, and show their love unto him, and live in all impious and ungracious manner, perpetuating most odious and foul damning villainies, affirming publicly that men ought lawfully to have the company of their own mothers, sisters, and daughters in all lusts and concupiscence of the flesh, and many other most inhumane and shameful acts, not to be recited. So they were very incestuous, which kind of goes on about what I heard about Ham and how he saw his father's nakedness before I read this book. I got the impression that it was that he, seeing his father's nakedness, was basically sleeping with his own mother, which was Noah's wife. But in this book it kind of says that Ham uses magic to stop his dad from having children or even being able to use his bits anymore. So it could still be similar, the same thing. I don't know. I really don't know. So basically Japhet took on Europe, I suppose, and Shem took on Asia, and Ham took on Africa. From these three and their descendants, we get the world of people today. So, without reading everything, it does go on about the reign of Jupiter, the second king of Babylon, and then talking about coming to Italy, which was once upon a time called Kittim, or Kaitim. He went to see his brother Gallus, the first king of that country, Camurus Gallus. Ham presently usurped and undertook the mighty government, who instead of virtuous instructions of godly laws in which all other provinces round about him, his kinsmen commanding Germany, Spain and France, had instructed and taught their people clean and contrary, infected the youth of Italy with all manners of impieties, incivility and corruptible vices, being themselves well addicted to usury, robbery, murder, poisonings and study of magic art, who, by reason of his own great skill therein, was surnamed Zoroasters. Some have thought that the Turk, from those and such like causes, is caused in his lesser parents, i.e. La Grande Cam d'Italia. So Ham had a sister called Rhea. She was basically married to the king of Libya, and Ham ended up taking her away and marrying his sister himself. The first king of Babylon, Typhon the Giant, and also many others. Ham, with his own sister Rhea, thus married together, and advised to be revenged of King Hammon of Libya. So Erector raised a great army of men and assistants and helped the brothers 16 giants. And they set forward from Sicilia, and the end arrived within the territories and confines of Libya, where they gave King Hammon battle, and the field overthrew and vanquished him. So they had into the Isle of Crete, now called Candia. Not long after this, Rhea had a son of her husband Ham, called Osiris, afterwards surnamed Jupiter Eustace, who proved a most noble and gallant prince, far differing from the wicked humours and dispositions of his father. It's a bit difficult to read that, so I won't read that. It's just going on. Over he appointed his schoolmaster and tutor, and a man called Olympus, of whom afterwards Osiris took his name and was surnamed Olympicus. After that, Ham and his wife and sister Rhea were discomfited and overthrown by Dionysius, the new king of Libya, and now retired with such disgrace unto furthermost and obscurest corners of Egypt. Rhea was presently upon this delivered of a daughter called Juno, which was also called Isis the Great, and this was in the first year of the reign of Semiramis, which was 302 years after the flood. And this Isis was accounted for the fairest and also the best disposed lady of the world. But her unfortunate and wicked father Ham, now remaining in Egypt, as have been already specified, was not content with such his habitation there, but seeking further as over ambitiously inclined, arrived to the country of Bactria, not far from Persia, where he so wrought and prevailed with his diabolical skill of negromancy, that he subjugated and brought under all those people thereabouts, insomuch as he reigned in great pursuance, pride and mightiness, and yet not with this satisfied, gathered great troops and armies of men, and invadeth the Assyrians, against whom marcheth the king called Ninus the young, the son of the before mentioned Semiramis, whose fortune is such, as his victory triumphed over his enemy Ham, suppressing his glory, rule, and haughtiness, he himself being in that battle slain, and all the army shamefully discomfited. So yeah, and then he started spreading his sciences of necromancy and stuff. And wrote many books of great worth. Among this is Treatise of Necromancy, of which most part them were burned by the before said Ninus. Some also say that he only in the world came out of his mother's womb laughing and with a smiling countenance, which was an uncouth thing, and most hold prognogating no good. Unto this Ham, Typhon the Giant, his eldest son by Nagla, and was heir, and also succeeded him in humours and malicious dispositions, who was brought up in Egypt, and there he continued. He also shall be fit to revert Histree unto the two youngest children of Ham, Zoroastes, which expelled in all good parts of virtuous inclination. Their father abounded in the country, and that was Osiris before spoken of, the adopted son of Dionysius, the king of Libya, and Isis his sister, the fairest and best accomplished damsel in the world, whom afterward he took wife and married, with whom he also the kingdom and principality of Egypt. Cyrus, therefore, surnamed Jupiter, having his wife and sister Isis, otherwise called Juno, and also of many other ladies, it shall be needless to recite many children. Some of their children's names: Hercules the Great, Anubis, Macedon, Lydus, Meon, Neptune, Oros, and also many others. He assembleth a mighty army of all sorts of people, both pursuant and subtle, and leave the government of the kingdom of Egypt to the queen Isis, carrying along with him some of his aforesaid children, and he taketh a long and wearisome journey. The chief place of the command in all his army he appointed unto his eldest son Hercules of Libya, who upon his escutcheon and arms bare depaint the shape of a crowned lion, rampant, holding on his forefeet a mighty hatchet. His two brothers, Anubis and Macedon, carried defigured on their heads, the one a dog and the other a wolf, according to the signification of their names. The armies of the emperor Osiris. The arms of the emperor Osiris was a royal scepter, and under that the form of an eye, who searcheth the monuments of a Today I'm struggling to speak properly. Didn't sleep last night very well. Sorry. So yeah, this is where it's going on to talking about Hercules now, and goes. I'll just read it. The mighty, powerful, and gallant army thus gathered together, the Emperor Osiris proceedeth on his intended voyage, and therein compasseth around the whole universal earth. His first resistance was upon entering into Africa, where he's opposed against him the giant Antheus, but him he presently overthrew. After that he quietly passed into India and Ethiopia, where he hid great good and instructing the poor and ignorant people in the true knowledge and necessity of nutrient and victuals, telling them the manner of how to govern and command with policy, justice, and equity. Here also he subdued many most ugly and fierce giants, full of cruelty and blood, who generally with their greatness had tyrannized over the whole countries of Asia. He slew the tyrant Busiris of Phoenicia, which used to sacrifice men and women unto the gods. After this he arrived in Phrygia, and also subjugated the giant Typhon, in who commanded the place he established one of his own sons, ruling there, being the place where Troy afterwards was erected. From hence he came by long passages into the part of the world, being Europe, through the straits of the sea called Hellespont, since called the arm of St. George, dividing Grecia from Turkey. This time ruled in Thracia, most horrible tyrant, inhumane giant called Lycurges, who denied passage for his country unto Isis. Fiercely resisted his approaches, but in the end the gallant fight, he slew him with his own hands, and remained victor and sole commander of the country, which afterwards he reigned in his own followers, called Maron, being a young and valiant prince. From thence he passed into another province called Mathia, in which also ruled many bloody and cruel giants, all which be clean expurgated, destroyed, and subdued, settling the country in peaceable quietness and security, over which he appointed to be commander one of his own sons, called Macedon, who afterwards called that country after his own name, Macedonia, and his people Macedonians, of whom he descended and issued the ever-famous conqueror Alexander the Great. Out of this country the Emperor Osiris presently departed, and came into the Isle of Crete, now called Candia, where he vanquished the giant Milenus, the tyrannical and sore governor. Yet he appointed his son, in whom good hopes appeared of good government, to be king of the island. From these parts he returned again from Grecia and to Scythia, and now called Tartaria, where he found his eldest son, the great Hercules of Libya, in prosperous estate, who at this infant was extremely enamoured of a lady called Araxa, by whom afterwards he begat a son called Tuscus, which long after was the king of Italy, and of whom descended King Dardanus, the first founder and builder of Troy from Tartaria. The mighty emperor Osiris, surnamed Jupiter Eustace, and his son Hercules are now departed, and in a short space arrived at Hungary, and so come into Almain or Germany, even unto the flood of Juno. So yeah, it's just going on about how Hercules was going around the world killing all the giants that were tyrannical, oppressing their little people, sacrificing them and stuff. Worse, even some things worse. Ultimately they are Noah's seed as well, that he's slain. But still, Hercules also is Noah's seed, and he's a good man. So it just goes to show how good and bad seed can be sown from any one place. So I'm still right. So I'm halfway through my video, and I've basically read half again. Oh bugger! In these times reigned Germany a prince called Gambravius, the king of the Germans, descended from the house of Tuscan the giant, the first king of that country, and the son of Noah. With this prince, the emperor Osiris made long residence and was royally defeated and entertained as being near in kindred and whatever that word says, who accordingly received and his train with great joy and gladness. The country of Italy about this time was extremely oppressed with the tyranny and bloody fashions of infinite number of giants that thereabouts then lived, called Titans, insomuch as the people of the country, not being able longer to tolerate and endure those such slavish impositions and unfavourable tyrannies, hearing of the same and late arrival of the emperor Osiris into Germany, sent their messengers or ambassadors unto him, and humbly craving and desiring his favour, be assisted in protecting against those barbarous and uncivil oppressors, and that he would make a journey hither to deliver them from the miserable servitude and bondage that they were forced to abide and live in. The emperor Osiris, or Jupiter, hearing and accepting of their distressed condition and case, willing condescended to leave Germany and to undertake the voyage here to redress and suppress their wrongs. And the giant's super arrogant pride, glory, and haughtiness, which although they were kindred and alliance unto him, yet in respect of their uncivil and tyrannical usances, he instantly proceeded to resident thereof, and in 3 several battles utterly overthrew, vanquished, and discomfited them, and thereupon took upon him the government and the principal of Italy, which long before his father Ham and his grandfather Noah were also possessed of. He commanded and ruled over the Italians for a space of 11 years. Instituted his nephew Lestragon the giant, whose son is Neptune, king, commander, and ruler over the country of Italy. When so much as this book mentioned is made oftentimes so strange and horrible giants, and other rare and admirable things, the reader may perhaps remain incredulous and scarce believe them to be true, and counting them wholly fabulous and by invention fashioned, yet to alleged some authority for the confirmation of their leaving out infinite other examples of infallible certainty, that only shall be referred to in Holy Scriptures, and unto Josephus, the Jewish writer, and amply have handed the apology thereof. Among the rest, Nembroth, Goliath, and others are apparent that they were giants as well, and of unusual stature, strength, and proportion to body. So, they're all giants. And further explain the security thereof. These things above spoken being archived by Osiris against those giants and molesters of civil conversation, he departed out of Italy with all his royal army, singularly well prepared and in gallant equipage, accompanied with gods, heroes, demigods, and materialists, martialists, that is, with all valiant, courageous, and wise princes, rulers, and captains. And it is not written whether in his journey he passed through Gaul, which is now called France, or he went by sea. And he went to that famous country he journeyed. He now is arrived in Spain, where once again he renewed moral battles against the Titans, which were mighty giants and cousins to those before discomfited in Italy. These also he now subdued, and quite raiseth out of their generation, loathing the government of that country, commanding them of Geryon. And from thence again he sailed into Greece, and ruled there for about 35 years. So the names that he had and titles that he had were Jupiter, Eustace, Dux, or Duz, Rex, Consulta. I can't even read that. And a few more. All of which were clean contrary of those wherewith his father Ham was entitled. So being returned to Egypt, he caused several parts of corners thereof to be erected, certain columns and high pillars, in which he commanded to be cut out and engraved for preservation and memory of his name and glory. These also, I think you can find images on Google of Temple of Jupiter. I don't want to keep reading everything, but it's just constantly going on about giants. It's really fascinating. I don't know if it counts as actual evidence because, So this kind of carries on and goes on about how Osiris was cut up by the giants. They really hated him. They cut him up, as the story divided all the parts of his body and hid them all over the world. And then his wife Isis went around collecting all the bits and putting them back together again to give him a good burial. It's really interesting stuff. Riverorus in Arabia, and the same with himself, slew a mighty giant and tyrant, the world being thus delivered and preserved generation of Ham. So at this point, everyone that was a seed of Ham in rulership was gone. Well, altogether, the seed of Ham was gone apparently. I suppose maybe just his direct seed line. Isis remained a peaceful and secure governess and queen over Egypt, which she compassed as well by her own policies and devices, as well as by the valour and the hardy prowess of her children, for which the chiefest and most valiant was Hercules of Libya, of whom now, withdrawing my pen for a while to speak further of Isis, I will amply entreat. So Hercules, therefore, the most valorous and courageous young prince, after he had by his means revenged the death of his father Osiris upon his uncle Typhon and the rest of his associates, began now to have a feeling of his own power and vigour, and undertake many most tedious voyages to score all places of the world from tyranny and oppression, such inhumane and impious tyrants. He first passed through the province of Phoenicia, where he slew the tyrant Busiris, the son of him whom Osiris before had slain. From thence he went into Phrygia, where Troy afterwards was built, and whereover there came the young tyrant Typhaeus, or Typhius, and he gave the government of that country to his own son Asus, which he begat of a lady called Omphale, and hereafter shall be declared. Likewise he vanquished the giant Milanus, the younger king of the island of Candia, and thence he came into Africa, called a place since called Barbaria, which he named the most part of it Libya, after his own name, which before was called Pharea. In there, in memory of his conquests, he erected a column, a stately pinnacle. From hence, he passing through the straits of Gibraltar, he arrived in Spain, where upon his first landing, he sought body to body against the three Geryones, which were brothers and joint commanders in the kings of Spain. Those also he overcame and slew, and created his son Hispalus king and ruler of that country, which was now the 9th king thereof, and of whom the city Hispalus was now Seville in Spain, took her name and was so called. After this, Hercules determined to make a journey into Italy. There he also purchased further fame and reputation by suppressing the tyranny of those that lived therein, according to their own will, power, and mightiness. In this journey towards Italy by land, he passed through the kingdom called Regnum Celticum, which was then Gaul, and today is known as France. Of the antiquity of which that country before come to speak of in his arrival in Italy, having to fit occasion, we will in this place something to remember. That made no sense to me, that sentence. So you must know that in time what age this famous Hercules of Libya passed through the country in his journey, in so much as not written of any certainty, or by any authenticated author, that he ever joined the journey through this kingdom before, although some do hold that he went and way into Spain with his father Jupiter, surnamed Jupitus, and reign of Lucas, the 8th king of Gaul, and has been for some I can't read that, it's really difficult. So yeah, and then he made his son Hispalus king of Spain. And then a historiographer wrote Chronicles of Spain. Yes, 22, not even halfway through the book yet. Kingdom of Spain by his father Hercules in the 630th year. 11th king of Babylonia, which was after the flood 510 years, before the foundation of Troy 261, and before the incarnation of Christ 1707 and 20. For Hercules was born presently after the death of Ninus, the 3rd king of Babylon, from whose death unto the 6th and 30th year of Balius, the 11th king, which is 210 years, so that by this means he may clearly be perceived in what time and in what age his Libyan Hercules so arrived in Gaul, being presently after the coronation of his son Hispalus in Spain. This time, therefore, he's come into Gaul, which we will now hereafter call France. Yeah, so Gaul is basically France and what is Brussels nowadays as well, and I haven't seen any maps that show it with certainty yet, but I think Britain might have been part of Gaul as well, and maybe pre-flood that they were connected. Britain was connected to France, where the channel is now, and Celticum Gaul is basically the Irish and the French. And the reason I say that it was probably that the lands were connected was because we all know the Celtics to be Irish now, and this is saying that everyone started in France, and there's not even any mention of Britain anywhere in this. So I mean, unless Britain has risen out of the sea in the past 1,000 years and it weren't there in them days, I can only logically think that maybe Britain was still attached to France pre-flood, and maybe post-flood as well, I don't know, at least up until a point in time. Because I mean, California was an island up until about 200 or 250 years ago, which it's not anymore. So yes, this book it's quite difficult to read, and I'm stumbling over my words while I'm reading it and stuff on occasion. And it's, sometimes with regards to the print, it gets really faded or double printed and difficult to read. But what happens is, yeah, it's stories about Hercules, and then obviously it goes on to his children, and they're all, and it leads all the way down to the creation of Troy. But it does have details of each country, and generally what it's like there and what the rulers are like, whether they're oppressors or peaceful, and then yeah, loads and loads of information. I just wanted to, I could end up reading this and losing my channel because I keep forgetting to stop reading. So I'll probably make this the second and final video of this book today. But the link is below, so if anyone does want to read it, please do download it and read it. Kind of helps with a lot of stuff, like you know, you hear things about how people were worshipping Saturn and Jupiter thousands of years ago, or 1,000 years ago or two, and nowadays they're what we call the lights in the sky. You know, we're still worshipping them like they're planets now, but anyway, it's all beyond me. So I'll leave the link for this book, and also I'll leave a link for, what's that? Leave a link for this book here. I can't give you, you can't download this book for some reason, but this is apparently the Chronicle, the descent of the kings of England from Adam and Eve to Richard III, and you can go through. I ain't got much time, I'm about to run out of time. So basically it's got page after page where you've got the names of the kings and the bloodline colour and when they're coming down, and it gets a bit complicated after a while, but apparently this is them all. I have found on Google that some people are claiming this ain't real and it's made up because he can't prove where this guy that wrote it can't prove where he got his sources from, and I don't know either way, but I'll share this link anyway so you can all have a gander. And anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all soon. God bless.